Hello, my leaders, and welcome to September. I can't believe it's already September. It's going to be a really fun kickoff to this school year and semester. We're talking about trust and how we can put our full trust in God. And so what all of this comes back to is I can trust God no matter what, right? And then our monthly verse is our monthly virtue is all about trust, right? Putting your confidence in someone that you can depend on. And of course, we can depend ultimately on God. And so everything that we do, we just need to be pushing that. Be like, even if we've trusted a human before and they've let us down, we know that we can trust God no matter what. So just keep pushing that idea this whole month as we get them to trust in the Lord. And so today's bottom line is trust God even when you have to wait, okay? And so waiting is just a period of time that just sometimes it feels awkward, right? And we don't always trust what's going to happen in the outcome. And so we're looking at the story of Abraham and Sarah today and how they had to wait a long time for God. We kind of touched on this the week before, and we're going to really dive into it this week about trusting Him. And so the memory verse is trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. The Proverbs 3:5. And you can also go ahead, for the older kids especially, keep going with that verse too. And just go into verse 6. In all your ways acknowledge Him and He will make straight your paths. Like, continue on that verse. I'm fine with that, especially with those older kids, because they need to learn that as well. Now, this first activity, we're going to do joke books or some sort of like jokes that you can come up with. If you have a good Christian website for good funny jokes, then go for it, as long as they're clean and whatnot, of course. I'm going to list a couple examples and stuff for you on the sheet as well. But when you tell some of these jokes, I want you to do half of it, and then right before the punchline, say, wait for it, and then give them the punchline, right? And so kind of just giving them this idea of like, sometimes we have to wait for good things, right? And so trusting that waiting can sometimes be good because we're trusting in the Lord is part of the idea for that, okay? Now this next one, you'll have some decks of cards, and basically you're going to be playing slapjack. You can do it where you slap the jacks, or you can do it, we've done a version where you just slap the kings instead. So anytime a king comes up, then you have to slap that king. And if you slap it, if you're the first to slap it, then you get all of those cards added to your deck. And so just kind of divide the deck up into even amounts per kid and have them shuffle it and all that stuff. And then they can start putting them all in a pile in the middle. Whoever slaps that king or the jack will get those cards. And remember, if they lose all of their cards, then they're still not out. They can still slap in by being the first person to slap that king or the jack whenever it comes up. And so remind them of that too. But it's also, again, about waiting for the right moment and waiting for those things. And so waiting sometimes includes just having that little anticipation of what's going on. And so anyway, it's getting them in the mindset of waiting one more time. Now, we'll hear the Bible verse, and then what I want you to do is go back to your groups, open the Bibles together, and go through the story together. And it's given you the different pieces of scripture that we used, because it kind of jumps a little bit. So we have Genesis 15, Genesis 18, and Genesis 21, and they're listed at the top of this page for you, so you can kind of review all of those. And those are the big points that we hit on. Now, we have some review cards, and this is like a memory matching game, if you will. So you'll have cards, these will all be cut out for you and whatnot. You'll have those cards cut out and put them in the middle, all spread out and face down. And so what they're gonna do is you're gonna have like two teams if you want to, or just play who's gonna win. And as they flip them over, you'll have two sets of each one of these cards. And so as they flip them over, as they flip over two of them, if they match, then they get those points. If they don't match, they have to flip them back over, and then the next person's turn keeps going. It's a simple memory match game. But here's the thing. After they do that, then they have to put them in order, okay, based off of the story and the timeline of the story and what happened first. And they're actually in order by like, first is 10, then it's 20, then it's 30, then it's 40, so on and so forth. These numbers match points if you're gonna do teams, if you want to do it in teams. And so the higher the number there, the more points that you get for having that specific card matched, okay? Then it's all about the story of like how the whole world was blessed, right? Because of Abraham's descendants. And so because Abraham followed and did exactly what God asked, then we have Jesus because of that, right? And so the whole world is blessed because of that. And then again, trusting God because we have to, when we have to wait, right? Because sometimes we have to wait. So Abraham and Sarah, they had to wait 25 years after Abraham was told to leave his homeland. Then they waited 25 years to hear another word from the Lord. And then they had to wait again to actually have this child that they were promised. And so God can help us, and pull this out too. God can help you deal with the anxiety, impatience, sadness, discouragement, and all of that stuff that comes from waiting, okay? And so trusting in Him also means trusting that His timing is perfect. And then you have some really good questions on the next page too, so make sure you go through these. These are going to be really good just to dive into applying it, right? Like, when are some times that you've had to wait? How hard is it to wait? All of that kind of stuff. And so then the next one is your after video 2. And you'll ask them to sit in a circle, and you're gonna pass this box or the bag around in the circle, okay? And these have really cool decals or stickers in them that they get to choose from, okay? And what you're gonna do is you're gonna have some music playing, and whenever you stop the music, that's whoever's holding it gets to be the first to choose their sticker out of the box, okay? Now, of course, give them like 10 seconds or something to choose one, because there's gonna be a lot of them in there and whatnot. And so have them like choose for 10 seconds or whatever. They're all different and stuff too. And then eventually you're going to get to the point where the other kids who are like last to actually get the music stopped on them and be able to choose it, you can ask them some of these questions, right? So like, was it difficult to wait? And did you have the right attitude while you were waiting? All of that, right? Sometimes we're put in situations where we don't have a choice but to wait. And so that happens all the time, right? But we can trust that no matter what you're waiting for, God promises to be with us, and He wants us he wants to help us be patient, right? And so even though it's not easy to be patient, we need to be patient because God asks us to, and trusting in Him in the process. Now, memory verse activity. This one, you'll have to use one of the whiteboards that's in your room. And what you'll do with that whiteboard is go ahead and write the verse on the board. And then one by one, you can start erasing one of the words from that verse, okay? If you want, you can choose random kids to come erase one word, that kind of thing, just to get it a little more interactive. You can also make it more of a competition where they sit down and erase the word, and the first kid to stand up to try to recite the entire verse. If he does so correctly, right, then award that team 2 points. And so you can split them with 2 points. And then if first person to stand up after you've done the whole reciting of the verse, then that kid can try to say the whole verse without messing up. So anyway, then the team with the most points at the end wins. And then go ahead and go through the questions at the bottom of that too, like, what does the writer of this verse say about trust, right? And you can even go through the Hebrew. In Hebrew, the word for heart doesn't just refer to your emotions, it also refers to our mind and our actions and stuff too. So that's a really good insight for them to know that it's everything. Or it's trusting God with everything. And then our prayer and closing activity, ask them to think about one thing that they're having a hard time waiting for. It could be like a new pet, could be a holiday, could be a family member getting better, anything like that, right? And so what you're going to do is you're going to have some journals. And with these, each kid will only get one of these per month. And so just like we saved stuff last month for the whole month, you're going to save this piece of paper for the whole month so that they can write on it for each week. And so like this is going to be week 1, so they can write down the answer to this question in week 1. And then the next week, they'll be able to write number 2, right? Teach me to trust you to blank, and then they have to write something in there. So it's making it more personal for them, but make sure they write their names on this, and then we will keep these and recycle them for you to have the next week as well. But this is a journal that they can again take home at the end of the month when all of it is said and done, and it's teaching them to trust. And that's it for this week, guys. Thank you guys so much for all that you guys do. Remember, it's all about asking the right questions and loving them and opening up their discussion to really get their minds working. But thank you for all that you do. See you Sunday.